Welcome to Season 10 of How to Start Up, the podcast helping you start and scale your business with advice from entrepreneurs on what to do now, next, or never when scaling your company. This season, we're focusing on all things brand, so you'll hear from a series of amazing entrepreneurs on what they've learnt in their own journeys. Hosted by me, Juliet Fallowfield, founder of the B Corp Certified PR and communications consultancy, Fallowfield & Mason. Our mission is to enable you to own your communications in-house with a long-term view. Thank you, Lucy, so much for your time today on How to Start Up. It would be wonderful, before we get into the whole brand season focus, if you could introduce a little bit about yourself and the business that you founded. But thank you, Lucy, so much for your time today on How to Start Up. It would be wonderful, before we get into the whole brand season focus, if you could introduce a little bit about yourself and the business that you founded.
Yeah, my name is Lucy. I'm the editorial director and co-founder of Country & Townhouse, which is an independently owned multimedia brand with print offerings, newsletters, social events. No publisher is ever just a publisher nowadays.
Congratulations. And when did you start Country & Townhouse?
2007.
My goodness. Because I remember when we first met a few years ago, and I'd always heard about Country & Townhouse, and when I was at Chanel, we were pitching to get on the editorial pages, and it was this beautiful brand title. It was this glossy, gorgeous magazine, and of course online. And then I met you, said, oh no, I started it. I was like, what? I had no idea that you were the founder.
Oh, I'm not doing the story well enough then.
But I think you just got on with it. You started this amazing brand and then you got on with it, and it's gone from strength to strength. And I think what we wanted to chat to you about today was the fact that in the world of publishing, print, everyone likes to catastrophize the fact is print is dying and it's all over, and it's not. And I think for my perspective, looking to your business, you've built an amazing brand, and it happens to be a publication and it happens to be online, but it's brand first in my mind because you've got all of these touch points. Would you agree? Do you think of it as a brand or a business or both?
Oh, such a good question. I think I've grown into the brand and the brand's grown into me. And I think possibly, obviously I have a co-founder who is also my husband, who I came from, I think, quite a green, very editorial, and editorial is king, and how do I work commercially? And you have all these kind of tussles about what is true authenticity. And then you move more into how to run a business as well as a brand, as well as an editorial product. And it's fascinating. And I'm really glad I've stepped up into that space more than just being a purely editorial person. I think the world that's opened up since then is amazing. I can say from the beginning, I knew very little about brand. It was intuition.
And when you start a business, I think a lot of people forget that they're not going to be experts on all things. Like I came into being self-employed from a PR background, so I knew how to PR something. I had no idea how to run a company. And this is where the podcast was born, because I started asking questions, and it's my work therapy. But you can't know the answer to all of those things from the beginning. And a lot of our listeners are thinking about starting a business or starting and scaling a business. Just to go back to basics, what gave you the idea to start a print magazine?
So it's as basic as this. I worked in a business before this, which produced beautiful glossy mags for London. So you had a glossy for Chelsea, you had a glossy for Notting Hill, and we developed about 8 of these magazines that took those values of those, beautiful Condé Nast Hearst titles and tried to make them relevant to a very local niche audience. And so that kind of honed my skills of creating something with high values on low budget. And that back in the day, that we were propositioned by a bigger publishing company saying, we're either going to buy you or we're going to make you go bust. There wasn't much of a question. And subsequently, all those magazines that we had created and were doing pretty well have disappeared, sadly for them. But we literally left. I worked with them for a year, and it was probably the worst year of my life, going from a publisher that really valued editorial to a very commercial, advertising driven. That was the king. Editorial was just the kind of icing on the cake. Meanwhile, in the background, my now husband was, what can we do? Where do we have expertise? And that expertise lay in property. So those local magazines were very property driven. So you had a little bit of editorial at the beginning, and then these lovely kind of country lifestyle pages at the back, which was a very successful model back in the day. So our thinking was, okay, you have the amazing magazine that is Country Life. It does phenomenally well. It's an institution. It's been going decades. Does that magazine speak to the children of country life, the more urban creatures, shall we say, that might not relate to a dead pheasant or a black lab? So our idea was to create, we always went out and called it the kind of the naughty child of country life. And we launched as Country House, which has that kind of Blur song resonance of being a bit more cheeky, a bit more urban, very much driven by that time, pre-2008, this market that you worked hard from Monday to Friday in the city. It's a bit of a trope. And then you spent your relaxing time in the country. So these amazingly privileged people were flitting between two. How can we capture the essence of what it was to live that lovely life, and your choices about where you spend your time, your food, your interiors, beauty, and of course, property.
So you had this idea together. This is a whole other episode, the fact that you founded a business with your partner. That must be and are still happily married. So
we're still married happily.
Yeah. So
kids.
Huge congratulations on that. 3 kids with the pub, with the business as well.
And a dog. Yeah.
And oh my goodness. Okay.
And a dog.
Hats off to you.
Can't forget the dog.
But to go into the sort of the branding element, I think a lot of people when they start businesses, they do the thing they know how to do and they learn the rest. And for you were learning how to build a brand. Where did you pick up advice, or where did you look for to learn that?
I think you're aware of your market and your position you're in and what your unique selling point is. And this is in retrospect, I have to say, you don't read the handbook and go, this is what you do. You feel your way, you intuit your way, you have conversations, you make mistakes. There is no blueprint. And obviously when you're starting, because you're so in it with your and cash flow and everything, it's all,
there's a lot and it's busy.
There's a lot to take on. And if you just concentrate on brand, then the doing of all the other stuff that needs doing doesn't happen.
And you wouldn't have a business at the end to create
exactly.
a brand for.
There's no point just having a nice shiny document, this is our brand, where there's no accountants or no commercials coming. It does work. Advice, we have a board, we have shareholders who have business involved in lots of other businesses who bring a lot to the table. So we don't own the entire business. We have a good board, awareness of, as I say, the competitive market and what your USP is. So for us, our selling point was, we're going to deliver you a top quality title that is delivered direct to your customer who might live, if you're a business who's on Sloane Street, we're going to deliver our beautifully produced high editorial quality product to your customer who lives 200 meters from you. When you have a proposition that has the editorial quality of a paid for title, so you invest in your writers, you invest in your design, and you go to a brand, one of those Sloane Street, Bond Street brands that we carry, and you say, okay, we can service your customer who lives within 500 meters of you for an nth of the price of what it might cost to be in one of the big major glossies. So that was our entry point. Once we got one brand signed up who'd never done that kind of investment in a freemium title, shall we say, then it opens the doors.
And I think it's important to say, when you say carry, you mean advertisers.
Yes, sorry.
And I think, in the sense that I speak to a lot of people who are like, we want to be on the back page of Vogue. And it's like, well, that's an ad. And it's like, you need editorial and advertising. They work together because publications are businesses. Businesses need to make money to survive. And a lot of clients is like, we need to be on the editorial pages. Why does the reader need to read about you on those editorial pages? And are you supporting that business with advertising? It's a really interesting one. They go, oh, I hadn't thought about that.
So, I mean, it's especially in this day and age, and we'll probably come onto it, but especially with our new purpose driven around the kind of B Corp values and how we talk to brands who's spending so much on the beauty of their products and the ethics and everything, that they almost think they don't have to advertise because they're putting so much into this. But unless the story is told, and it's an interesting area.
I think, yeah, again, people are learning as they go and they start businesses and they say, oh, I need PR, I want PR, and they don't know what it
Yeah,
is. And then
yeah,
with branding, a lot of people I've seen in our co-working office are like, oh, we need a really great website. It's like, what's the point if no one's looking at the website? You need to
yeah,
raise awareness first, put your head above the parapet before you
yeah.
then spend all the money on internalizing that sort of owned
Totally,
platforms.
totally.
And when you start building your brand, it will change. And this is the thing. I know my business obviously way better now than I did at the beginning, but I had really no idea what I was trying to do. I just
Yeah,
tried.
same,
And
same.
the website, I did a DIY version because I thought no one's going to be looking. And if they
Yeah.
do, it's enough. It's enough for now. But at what point in that launch for Country and Townhouse did you go, okay, now we need to look at our brand? When I would need to put it down on paper? Or did it just evolve bit by bit?
Obviously, we launched in 2007, and then in 2008, the world changed. That could have spelled the end of us. The bottom fell out of the market, especially the kind of country house market. So what did we do?
Did you go into survival mode?
Oh yeah, and we've had,
So many crises.
like
Yeah.
every business who's lived through COVID, obviously it makes you sharper, it makes you more resilient. For us, it made us change our brand name. So we were Cheeky
Mm.
Country House, and because literally we had no country advertising at all, it just fell out. The town market, the London market, is way more resilient, way more international, way more moneyed. So the luxury brands are obviously centered in the city. We couldn't call it Town and Country. There's a big US
Yeah.
magazine. Don't want to tread on their toes. So Country and Townhouse. And
No way. That's where it came
yeah,
from.
that's the story. We spent 10 years trying to explain who we are. I think we're now hopefully at a point where we do have a bit of recognition, but it wasn't off the cuff at all. There was a lot of education.
A lot of people think the magazine is one thing, and of course, all editorial will go online. But you've done events, you've done podcasts, you've done so many. When you say a media business, has that really helped build that brand awareness for the print title? Is it all going in to support it?
I think I now see it as when I did the magazine for Notting Hill, really made me think of Westbourne Grove, which is very different to Portobello. So Westbourne Grove, they had the big brands. I think they had Chanel at the time. And we were saying, there's no one in those brands. They're just
Shop front.
the
Yeah.
shop front. So to me, the magazine is our showcase. This is one route to see all this kind of world behind. It's the smartest way in, probably, but there are all these exciting other ways in through, obviously, search engines, events, podcasts, newsletters, social, and how making all that into kind of one so you get the same feeling of you're visiting the brand. It's hard and it's a work in progress. And I think we're always trying to make that user journey more coherent. And that's the joy of business. You can keep tweaking. And with digital, you can keep tweaking because you can read the data. So there's a huge benefit in it. But I'm very much still, on the print. Print is my heart. Yeah.
I agree. And there's something, and probably shows my age, but there's something really delicious about a print magazine. And especially from a comms perspective, I can read it start to finish. Online is endless. You never get that sense of satisfaction that you finished it. Whereas a magazine, you get it, you savor it, you spend time with it, and you can keep it. Or you can rip things out and share it another way. It's more precious somehow. But with the rise of digital, and again, my team were laughing as I used to just measure coverage with a ruler and fax it to Paris. And they're like, what? And I was like, what?
This is worth
Yes,
yeah.
yes, exactly.
An inch. Yeah.
Oh, was it ACE, advertising cost equivalent? And now,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
with clients, we're like, the more time we're reporting is the less time we're pitching. So let's just leave that and that
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
got the
Yeah.
coverage.
Yeah.
But with digital, with social, with audio, newsletters, there's so many ways into a business. And I'd love to talk to you about community as well, because I know with B Corp, you became B Corp in August
Yes.
2023. Huge congratulations.
Thank you.
Community is a huge part of it. You think about governance, workers, clients, your general how you're functioning, but community, both from a branding perspective, but also business ethics perspective, is really important. Have you started to champion that within the heart of your brand, your community?
I absolutely, and it's central to my personal vision of what this brand can do. I've done a course on citizenship. I'm engaging with people who are talking about the world's problems and how businesses can help be part of solutions rather than part of the old problems. And that is a whole new excitement. It doesn't matter what business you're in. We can all look at around us and see what's happening. We see it on the news every day and ask different questions. And I think as business leaders, to keep asking the questions is the evolution of your business. We don't know the answers, but if you're asking the right questions, then you're going to open up areas of excitement that would lead you to discover some of the answers. And this work, which we part of B Corp, is asking all your staff their satisfaction and would they recommend Country and Townhouse as somewhere to work. Maybe 18 months ago we did one and it was okay, it was just benchmark industry. This time it was 100% engagement in the brand and the business. And that was after becoming a B Corp. And so obviously all the changes we've made, whether we recognize it or not, is obviously having an impact.
It's a huge responsibility as well. I think you're in a position where you're disseminating information to thousands and thousands of people, your readership, your circulation, your engagement online. You have that responsibility, not as just a business owner who have employees, but to your readers in this huge audience. But what I love seeing is the fact that you as a publication have become B Corp, is that you're showing the bigger Condé Nasts and Hearsts, global businesses that have many more magazines under their belts, that you can do better. They can do better. And B Corp, they're prodding. I've learned to prod upwards. I'm poking questions upwards to Google, to Hiscox, to Soho House, and asking them the questions. And if enough people do it, someone said, oh, you're a service-based business, why would you bother becoming B Corp? I was like, 78% of the UK economy is SME service businesses. So if we all did it, everyone would be better off. And that sort of prodding and poking, asking the questions, even if you don't know the answer yet. And when you're starting a business, 90% of your day is not knowing the answers to things.
Of course.
But the mere fact you're asking and your team can see that you're asking, that you're a champion for better.
Yeah, you see that in the younger people coming through into the business.
And your readers, presumably, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's hard with a magazine. Magazines should be about escapism, entertainment. How do you get quite serious messaging without becoming a turn-off, quite frankly? We use magazines to escape. So my philosophy on that is to present some quite serious stuff, but in this beautiful environment. You don't have to read it, you can read it. But also to tweak the regular stuff, so we always have something that you might not know. There might be a surprise. That definitely on the brands that are doing better, that we platform them higher than maybe the other ones, and we tell new stories to crowd out the old stories. So it's not a confrontational thing to read us. It should be a joy, but hopefully there is some implicit messaging within that if people are looking out for it, they'll definitely find it. But even if they're not looking out for it, it will seep into their knowledge base without us having to hit people over the head, which no one wants. But we wrestle with this. And as a B Corp, you wrestle with what's going on in the world and how much we consume and how much we buy and where we're buying from and supply chains and your carbon footprint. And it's big stuff. But I think you need to drill down as a business and ask, where can we do better? And obviously our biggest impact is in our readership.
The education.
How can we?
Yeah. And it's so interesting you say that in the last 18 months, because I've certainly seen you've become a lot more vocal about what you're doing, and you're a big champion on LinkedIn and on social. You're sharing as a business owner what you're up to and why. And I think a lot of people talk about when you're in the thick of it and you're exhausted, you've got to remember the why behind why you started this business. But for you, presumably, you're really enjoying now this privilege that you have, not privilege, you've worked really hard to get here, but you've built something and now it's a force for good. And now you can use it to affect change.
Yeah, you're so right. It's weird. I think my writing's got much better. I think I'd be really shy. I can't speak. It's taken me a long time, but that's because I'm so certain about the direction we've gone in that it's easy for me to talk about it now.
It overcomes the fear and the shyness.
Maybe it's that kind of cognitive dissonance of presenting one thing and not feeling it. Whereas I now feel what we do, and it's a hell of a lot more to do, trust me, but we're in the right direction. And the people I'm meeting through opening the store is making me a happier person about the situation the planet is in. And if we all sit at home terrified, there's inertia and inaction. And only through feeling connected and inspired can you act. So it feeds you to keep going in what is a hard space when you look at the bare raw facts of what actually is going on.
Yeah. And you've gone into a landscape that's competitive on a good day. You've gone through crisis after crisis. But you have this, and I hate to use the word brand in the context of doing good, because brands typically, you think lots of money, lots of wastage, lots of luxury, and frivolous.
Yeah, sure.
But you've built this platform that can start to educate people to shift that Titanic and nudge it in the right direction. Now, because you're so passionate about it, I think for me, when I was working for other companies and was sort of, I'm not a PR, God, PR has such a bad reputation, I hate it. Whereas now my mission is to enable founders to own their own PR. And it's like, I can fix this. And because I'm so determined and adamant it's the right thing to do, it keeps me going. It's my fuel.
Totally.
And to have the B Corp, and that's why we scored well with B Corp, and it is a point system, let's be honest, but it gives you a framework to work within and learn from. It was that validation of, you are a tiny business, you are making this up as you go along, but we're this third party that can validate that and make you feel like you are in the right direction. And it's like a big sister. It's quite a nice feeling.
And do it down at your peril. I mean, obviously people can make mistakes and things can slip through, but nothing is perfect. It's the most kind of holistic, in-depth framework that I've come across. And it has to be based on something, or how do you even begin to score? So I'm such a big fan. And they're very encouraging and helpful. It's not like the Oxbridge exam where you have to cram everything and present on the day. It's an environment that wants you to do better, of course, because our planet's at stake.
Yes. And I think what I've witnessed them do with their brand and building their brand, and the fact that it is quite a tall poppy and lots of people like to shout it down, but it's like, show me the alternative, show me a better way.
Exactly.
Nothing's perfect. And as long as I know I'm, as a business owner, trying to nudge things in the right direction, and it means now we're educated on this and know the framework, we can help our clients and our audiences, and just that dissemination of information further, it can only be in the right direction. You're never going to get the answer tomorrow and finish it and be complete and perfect.
No, it's ever moving, and ever will it move. Nothing is ever complete.
Going back to the Country and Townhouse brand, is there anything that you would offer a new founder who's sitting on the fence, petrified? What would you suggest to somebody who starts to think about their branding rather than their company?
Yeah, you got the thing, whatever it is, your product or your service that you really believe in, because you are your brand when you start, aren't you? So you're your biggest champion, and putting on your smart shoes where you feel confident, because I've met a lot of brand founders and it only really comes out through them that you go, I get that. So you are your own best resource. So have confidence in yourself and if you really believe in what you're doing, the rest will follow. It's so big. I think you just start the conversations. You'll meet someone here, you'll get an idea, you'll need this, and as I said, LinkedIn is an amazing, to me, environment to ask for help and to ask for advice. I think never be shy to ask the most obvious question. I think that's a huge mistake people make, and that you have to present as perfect. And with this, obviously you need a solid financials and how your costings and how you're going to actually make this work. But yeah, believe in you as your best brand advocate to start with. So live up to what your product or your offering is. Don't be shy.
It's so true. And a lot of people say that I just want to go make jewelry in the corner and I don't want to say anything or speak to anyone. I just want to do the product bit. You can't. Michael Tobin, who's an amazing entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, he was like, anyone starting business, you have to accept that 80% of it is sales, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, good point.
Yeah.
At least at the beginning. Yeah. And without that, you won't have a business. And I think people can busy themselves and get caught up in building the website and doing all those bits that are diverting them from
the essence.
Yeah. Do the bit that you really don't want to do first.
But I absolutely agree. But it was also like, you might think you have an idea of your audience, but until you have the data, how do you know it's that audience? You might be creating for that audience, but actually you're hitting a very different audience that you might be completely surprised about. So you've got to be open to, okay, this is where I'm hitting it. And I thought it was over here.
So how have you ensured that your brand has kept itself differentiated from the competition? Have you proactively constantly looked at the market and made sure that you stand aside and stand alone?
I think being independent, I used to, again, be quite like, we're the tiny guys in the corner, don't look at us, nothing to see here. But I think as...
It never came across like that, just for the record. It came across like you
me.
had your shit together and you know exactly what you're doing.
No, not at all. I think being independent stands us in like, wow, they've survived. We don't have massive coffers behind us. We don't have a head office supporting us. So whatever we do has a massive impact on paying salaries every month, or we can't afford to make huge mistakes. But then we have to keep developing, and we have to keep learning.
Has it meant you've made quicker decisions as well? You've been able to be more nimble?
Yeah, we're allowed to play a bit more. We don't have a protocol. We don't have a head office saying, this is the way this works. We just say,
you are the head office, you know that, right?
That's that, why not? Not why not? And that's exciting, and that keeps us ever moving. And then this whole, the whole B Corp thing, and giving, underpinned by a sense of purpose for everyone, especially the young guys coming up through, when they're really motivated by purpose. It's not just a string to our bow, it's now becoming the fabric of what we do.
I see that underpins all of your activities. Anytime I see a touch point of Country and Townhouse, it is rooted in that, and it's very clear. And there's other publications out there I won't name, but they all blur into one a little bit. They don't really stand there. Like, well, which one would I pick off the shelf? I know what I'm going to get from Country and Townhouse, whereas others I'm a bit lost with. So I think it has really helped your reader know what they're going to expect and what they're going to get, and not be disappointed either. Have you seen that come through with sales and engagement with your audience?
We've had our best year ever. We're not quite at the end of the year. Print advertising is strong for us still. And we're obviously growing the digital as we go on and we learn.
That's got to be linked to the fact that you have built this incredibly well-respected brand, and advertisers / brands want to be part of that, and they want to be associated with that. It makes them look good too.
I think we offer a relationship with brands, hopefully. We want it to work for them. It's our head on the lines when it doesn't. So you get a relationship with Country Town. It's not just like an ad on a page, and the sales team too are very invested in the brand. I think we've also learned to value our brand. We have a very strong, loyal audience. We have to respect what we do, but it can't be for nothing.
Well, on that, given that advertising revenue for publications is so key, it's why publications can keep publishing. And presumably now you've made a huge rod for your own back with B Corp, because you'll be declining the wrong advertisers. You'll be saying no to the wrong revenue because you've got this standard that you want to keep. That must be, is that quite liberating in a way, because it keeps you really focused on the brands you do want to bring in?
So luckily we're not in the position of being advertised by fossil fuel, but all companies essentially use fossil fuels, but we have now a protocol. We're champions of people doing better. So unless it's a very obvious no, we're going to not turn away the chance to work with someone if they're on a journey.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that would be very stupid, because we're all on a journey and people could turn around to us. You print, you cut down trees to create. None of this is perfect. But I think we come from an encouragement point of view. And what are you doing? Because literally, come on, everyone is, we hope, doing something.
Absolutely.
Rather than a shutting door, unless it's very patently obvious. There is a little tension there.
Yeah, and I think there's something to say. We've met some clients where we're like, they're not where we'd like them to be, but we can help them get there. And by working together, we'll keep them closer to help them further and faster.
Yeah, that's your impact.
The greenwashing is quite interesting, and then green hushing is also quite interesting, that people are so worried about saying the wrong thing, they won't say anything at all, and people can't learn from these endeavours. But B Corp particularly gets a lot of backlash. It's like, well, someone said to me, does that mean you're not going to travel so much? I was like,
I know, I've had
it's
that,
not absolute. It's putting people and planet above profit. You still need to be a profitable company to be a B Corp. You can't be a charity to be a B Corp. You have to make profit, because with profit, you then have agency to change things. And a lot of people forget this. You can't travel. Like you turn on a light switch.
Sit in a hut.
You're never going to get anything done.
No, the commercial is a dirty word to B Corp is not the right way to look at it. It's a framework to do not just better, to do really well. And obviously there's a sliding scale. You can score just above, or you can score very well.
Yeah.
And obviously the scoring very well is once you become one, you work harder and you have to score higher every time. So there is a kind of impetus to keep doing better. You can't just rest on your laurels. But they're also brands who have ethics and sustainability at their very heart, but they don't have kind of some fancy accreditation.
Yeah.
They should still be championed and welcomed into this amazing new world of cliche business as a force for good. Is grotesque, but why not? We have to be part of this. We are part of this.
Given that we all need jobs and we all will be in a business working for or founding or starting, you may as well try and make it a force for good.
100% agree. And it's intrinsically satisfying because you're beaming, and I'm
really tired. I might be slightly deluded.
But there's a reason to get up every day apart from just keeping the show on the road.
It's that extra level. And I think what's interesting, we talked about it on the previous episode, how Bain and Company would always talk about mission and vision, and management consultants would come in and work with your mission and vision. And we do a lot of work with our clients on it, but now purpose is there too. So you've got mission, vision, and then purpose. And I think I hope it isn't, but I'm assuming it is very consumer led, that brands are seeing clients ask. I work a lot in the jewelry sector, and a lot of clients are like, where's the gold from? Where are the diamonds from? They're questioning, and that going back to that prodding and poking, if people are asking questions, business owners will listen and go, if that's what they're asking, we need the answers. And that purpose. But also, if you're going to get up and work really goddamn hard every day, you may as well do it with purpose and enjoy it and get something more than just that commercial return out of it.
What are you leaving behind, essentially?
Yes. That is a very interesting note to end on, because what we do is the previous guest has a question for our next guest. And his question for you is, how do you innovate for the future within your business? It's a big one.
It's a big one. We held one of our Great British Brands breakfasts, and the guest was the chief exec of IBM. And the title of the talk was AI as a force for good. So essentially, I rushed back to the office, spoke to my husband and our amazing COO. Go, okay, the first thing we do is engage with how our AI is going to provide opportunities for us as a media brand. What does that mean? How do we learn to ask the right questions? And having been prompted by that IBM talk, I was like, we've got to ramp up our knowledge about this, because it is here, it is coming. All brands are looking at it, some with horror, some with skepticism, some with getting complete commercial advantage. And it doesn't have to be the big scary stuff. It can just be little things that you can start with by saying, look, we have X amount of people visiting our website every day. How do we serve them something that they really want? Along with some surprises along the way. That personalization of content is one area that we could be looking at, and then putting the right brands with that content. So there's a whole kind of package. So I think AI and personalization is huge. So that's possibly where we could be innovative.
Oh, it's really amazing, because you'll be looking at the data all the time and you're learning from it. But I love, and I was always the geek in the Chanel PR department. I'd be the IT help desk and love fixing things. And I was completely fine with this. And someone said, oh, you're very corporate. You like a spreadsheet. And I was like, that's a compliment. But now when you're a business owner and you open your laptop and you're like, okay, I've got to learn Xero accounting software. I've learned Descript podcast editing software. I've learned Canva. I've learned so many. And one of my team members said, we've learned so much this year, like Toggle for tracking our time, WhatsApp for business, LinkedIn. There's so many platforms that we can embrace as non-specialists in those areas, payroll, all of that stuff. But AI is what I love the most, is we're in it with them. So I can see Canva tweaking on a daily basis. And we do a lot of decks and stuff. I say, it's so annoying. Canva don't have page numbers. They don't have that function. Sam, can you email them? We emailed the customer service, say, guys, we're not going to be the only ones that want you to integrate your page numbers to your decks. And they're like, yeah, you're right. Look into it. You're in this development of other people's businesses with them. And the fact that us tiny little UK-based communications consultancy emailed Canva, which is a Tricon, I think now, went, can you help us help you help us? And it's this lovely, amazing evolution. And with AI, we're at the coalface with them. Yeah. And what would your question be for the next guest?
For your next guest, I'm going to ask, how are you going to differentiate yourself from the rest of the market? What is your stamp on this new landscape that you're going into? What's your essence?
Thank you. Thank you, Lucy, so much for your time today. It's been fascinating talking to you all things Country and Townhouse branding.
Thank you for having me.
I really hope you've enjoyed this conversation. You can find a recap of all the advice so kindly shared by our guest in the show notes, along with their contact details. We'd love it if you could rate and review or share this podcast, because it really does help other people discover it. To incentivise this a little, I would very happily offer you one of our PR guides on how to share editorial coverage legally. Just DM us or send us an email, hello@fallowfieldmason.com, with review in the title, and we'll share it on.